Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, and here with me today to help wake the world up to what's possible for healing are some of the authors of a new book that we have coming out. The book is called The Caregiver's Advocate, a complete guide to support and resources. I want to just shout out Debbie DeMoss Compton, our lead author of this amazing project, before I introduce these authors to you today. Debbie, I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you. You had a really big vision and mission for getting the word out about caregiving and how to help our caregivers. We wouldn't be here without you. I am so impressed by the stellar author cast that you put together. This book is phenomenal. So big thank you to Debbie first off. So we're going to have a pretty juicy conversation today. I have four experts in the Zoom room with me. Cheryl Kinney is the co-founder of Memory Keepers, where they empower professionals and enrich lives of older adults and those living with memory loss. Frank Byrum is a scientist, inventor, and writer-author, and has spent the last 4 decades on a spiritual journey, the last few of which have been focused on deep self-healing and serving clients and establishing their daily rituals and practices. Danica Farmer is here. She's got over 20 years of experience in the caregiving industry and now the founder of Angelic Sphere LLC, an early stage tech company for families caring for and or overseeing the care of loved ones living with dementia. Sue Ryan is founder of the Caregiver's Journey, navigating the global crisis of family caregiving in business and guiding people to move from frustrated and overwhelmed to confident and balanced on their caregiving journeys. Holy smokes. Yeah, let's do this. Cheryl, we're going to start the party with you. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, I'm the author of chapter 3, Building Your Support Team, the Art and Freedom of Asking for and Accepting Help. And I chose this subject because after 35 years of working with caregivers and even being a caregiver myself for my husband who has lymphoma, I have witnessed the struggle, I've witnessed the pain, and I've witnessed just the feeling of overwhelm that can occur when a person is providing care to a loved one or family member or friend. And there's often this resistance to accepting help. And I have tried to find different strategies to help people overcome that resistance. And what I came to is that when I guide people through the process of building a support team and help them to come to terms with the fact that caregiving is something that you shouldn't do on your own. It's not something that any one person can really effectively do without some type of support. But they don't know where to turn. So by guiding them through a process of identifying informal support and formal support that can relieve them of some of that overwhelm and burden, they're free to just be present with the person that is receiving care. They're free to unplug and reset and recharge and equip themselves with the ability to be there for that person that they're providing care to.
So you just mentioned formal and informal support. Would you go there for a minute? What's the difference?
Absolutely. The informal support would be family members, friends, neighbors, people from your faith community. Sometimes volunteers would be included there. And so those are the people who are probably offering help, and maybe you're turning those people down for a variety of reasons. But the formal support would be the paid caregivers, the in-home agencies, adult day programs, other types of services that are out there, the Veterans Administration. I work with older adults, so I'm speaking about resources specifically for older adults, but the Area Agency on Aging, any type of formal agency or entity that is out there to provide that type of support.
So back up for a minute and help me get into the mind of somebody who's resisting reaching out. Like, we have these thoughts about this, and it creates either just we don't want to do it. Why don't we want to do it? I mean, what makes this so hard?
There's a couple things that makes it hard. One would be that there's this sense of, I don't want to burden other people. I don't want my kids to know how hard this is, dealing with their dad and the struggles that I'm going through. But they're probably also calling and complaining a little bit about what dad's doing. You know, they're venting and they're expressing these things, but then they're not asking for help. And so overcoming that, helping them to see that it's not a burden. Your adult children actually need to know what's going on. They need to be part of the solution. And so by bringing them into the story, helping them to see what really is happening, and then asking them for help or accepting the help that they're offering would not only help them feel like they are equipped to step in if you're no longer there to be able to provide the help, but also you're giving them the opportunity to spend some quality time with their parent, with their dad, you know, instead of keeping them from those opportunities, you're giving them that opportunity.
Awesome.
And yeah,
Yeah, go
go
ahead.
ahead. The other thing that happens is that people will say, well, I would never ask for help. I would never do that. But then I would ask, well, if somebody came to you and said, hey, Cheryl, could you help me with this? Would you help them? Absolutely. For sure. I would, no questions asked. I, of course, would help. Well, what does that do for you when you help other people? Well, it just brings me such joy. I just feel like I'm really there for them. Well, okay, well, how about allowing other people to feel that sense of joy and give them that opportunity to serve others?
That is a really nice example. Thank you for that. We all have done that, I think, a version of it. Cheryl, thank you so much for saying yes to this project and for being here today.
My honor. Thank you.
Um, Cheryl kicked us off brilliantly. You're all going to be hearing some golden nuggets today. And I hope you're taking notes and writing some of them down. We have so many different kinds of resources in this book and this community. So you're going to hear a lot of those nuggets. I think I've already had 3 that I've written down today myself. Danica, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Yeah, so when Debbie reached out to me and asked me to be a part of this project, I was very, very nervous as this is something that I don't typically do. So I was totally stepping out of my comfort zone. She asked me to write on bathing and eating, and I said I could absolutely do that. That's something I've had a lot of experience with. So my chapter is chapter 9, hands-on care, essential tips for bathing and eating. And I wanted to share with everyone that not every situation is going to be the same for each individual. It's going to be different, as you know, the conditions and physical disabilities and cognitive impairments are present with a loved one. You will experience bathing different than the next person, or you experience eating with your loved one differently as they do progress. So in my chapter, I gave a lot of practical tips that you could put in place almost immediately. And I just want everyone to know that, yeah, it is hard, but you can get through it. Just take deep breaths and kind of come up with different ways to address, if they're resistant to taking a bath. Let's try to phrase it in a different way so that you are giving your loved one kind of the lead, providing them with choice, and promoting their dignity. So I also wanted to share with everyone that bathing, uh, becomes more of the intimate part of care, and you may hear words, you may hear comments that are not as you expect them to be, but you have to provide that care to your loved one that's needed. So,
Danica, I felt the gentleness and generousness in your chapter so much. And you tackled a really tough subject with such respect. And I think the word respect keeps coming up in our interviews. And I think that your topic is one of those ones where, you have to get your awareness and presence on before you start. You have to be present and understanding and have another level of understanding of that person and what's happening. So what else would you tell someone who's maybe tackling that task and having a really hard time? What do you do when you're having a bad day with that?
yeah, so I would say reapproach is key. If you and your loved one are at a standstill and it's not going to happen right then in that moment, it's okay to take a break, have some quiet time, offer a snack, take some deep breaths, meditate, whatever tool you use to help calm nerves. I would recommend to do that and then reapproach it in a different way, and pay attention to their body language. It's very important.
So I have another question for you, and it comes from listening to your answer just now, but also listening to some other answers with other kinds of tasks. It seems to me that this is very much how we would gently treat a child. However, it's not a child.
Right.
What do you want to say about that?
The statement that you just made is very true in sense, even though, we are working with our seniors. It often is very similar. You just have to use more um, encouraging, I would say, um, and just more patience. It is very, very important.
Yeah, thank you. I knew that the word patience was going to come out of your mouth with that one for sure. And I think I want to follow up for all of you. Your other level badasses, your other level patient. You are all, this whole author cast has mastered those things and is able to give care at other levels, I believe. I think you're all so amazing. And so, yeah, I was waiting for you to say patience. Danica, thank you so much for saying yes to this and for being here today.
Thank you so much.
Sue, tell us about your amazing chapter.
My chapter is chapter 20 of this amazing book, The Caregiver's Advocate. The title of my chapter is Massive Acceptance and Radical Presence, the keys to positively navigating your caregiving journey. These are lessons that came to me when I was caring for my dad and reflecting on a situation that occurred where I felt I had really let him down. And what massive acceptance is accepting everything exactly the way it is, accepting it 100% and without judgment. We don't have to like it. We don't have to agree with it. We don't have to even understand it in the moment. When we accept it exactly the way it is and without judgment, we have the opportunity to be fully, radically present in the moment. So we can see joy in even the tiniest of moments. And yet we can also make wise choices in even the most challenging times.
I love how you went right after Danica, which is basically just segueing into this way you have to try to practice being, right? I love the massive acceptance, radical presence. I think radical presence for life in general makes for a pretty juicy life. What's
I
the
use
most
these in all areas of my life now.
Yes,
Absolutely, yes.
exactly. For all kinds of people, even in and out, doesn't always have to be that we're talking about caregiving. It could just be your boss or your coworker. What's the most important thing in that caregiving setting in terms of, I'm going to go for the radical presence because it's one of my favorite topics. What does that even mean to you?
Radical presence means to me that I accept my care receiver exactly where they are in this moment. I'm not trying to be wishing that it was the way that it was before. And I'm not trying to be a fortune teller trying to tell the future. I'm meeting them exactly where they're at. When I am fully present in the moment and meet them where they're at, then we can go. And to Danika's point, if they're resisting the shower, okay, they don't need to have a shower right now. What do we do to maximize the potential of this moment for our care receiver and also for us?
Oh, Sue, but what if they do need to take a shower right this moment? I'm teasing you. But like what, what if that comes up? Like what, yeah, take me through that scenario where it turns into a little bit of a battle that you don't want to happen.
When you stay radically present and you accept exactly where they are, it opens your mind to the potential and possibilities of what else is possible. For example, if you believe that right now your loved one, and we'll go back to the example of bathing, you were getting all ready for the shower, you had everything ready, and they're resisting that. When you're fully present, you're like, okay, they're not getting in the shower. It doesn't matter how badly I want them in the shower. What do we do to maximize the potential of this experience? Perhaps that we start with a gentle, soft massage of their shoulders, and that can turn into potentially giving them a sponge bath. So we redirect, we reflect on what we can do in that moment, and we're open to it. We let go of our agenda, and we meet them where they're at with a collective agenda.
From Nikki's interview yesterday, turn the music on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Be creative about that environment, right? So when you have a moment, and I think you are all in the practice of this kind of presence. You have to be caregivers. You have to, or else you're going to be miserable, right? That's my belief. We all have some bad days, like I was asking Danica about, and some are worse than others, where we run up against our own limitations, our own big frustrations. And that place is such an opportunity to shift. So for you, Sue, like, what's the technique, not now interacting with the person because you've had to step away, like you gave yourself a timeout. Mm-hmm. What's your own personal technique in that moment?
I have two techniques that I run myself through, because most of caregiving is about the being part and making sure that I'm being where I'm in the best spot. If something's not going the way I want it to be, when I step back, I look at, for example, what Cheryl was saying. Is there some form of self-care I can be doing so I'm in a better space for the outcome of this to be better? Or if I'm not, the other part of it is, who can I reach out to who can provide support, who can complement me? It isn't that we tend to think, as you were mentioning earlier, we need to do this all on our own. The greatest gift we can give ourselves is knowing we're not journeying alone, inviting other people on the journey with us. And so I begin by looking at those two. Then the third thing I do when I've given myself a timeout is say, what else is possible? What else is there here for me to know? And what else is there here for me to learn and see and explore different potential and possibilities for a better outcome for that moment?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, that's in my tagline. So like, I think that when we adopt this kind of presence, we are really making magic and giving big gifts to ourselves and the world. It's just no small potatoes thing to me. Sue, thank you so much for saying yes to this and for being here today.
Thank you very much.
So Frank, tell us everything. How did your chapter go down? Oh, Frank, I can't hear you for some reason. Uh-oh. We had you before. I don't know why we don't have you now. Not yet. No. Huh. Oh, there we go. Got you back. Go for it.
Okay, good. So my chapter is named A Journey Through My Mother's Dementia, How to Navigate the Fog of Guardianship. And what occurred to my sisters and I is a very strong-willed mother who was really good at convincing us that she was okay, and till she wasn't. And it sort of ultimately came out of a much younger suitor who basically was taking money from her, and it got really bad. He convinced her to reverse mortgage her house. I mean, it was just a nightmare. And the reason for the chapter is to help people to understand, hey, you need to start working on this early, right? You need to get a baseline early. You have to do this so that when you need, if it's at all possible and you have to do it, to get guardianship. It's a very complex process. It's not always granted. It's legally difficult to do, and it's a maze. Like it's as much a fog of dementia. And of course, with a parent who's super strong-willed, she wasn't on board with the idea. However, she was hurting herself. You know, she was bleeding her finances away. She was really unable to take care of herself. And so we scrambled pretty hard to do that. And so I don't want anybody else to have to do that. It's heartbreaking what occurred. We were unable to get the money back. It was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars in the end. But ultimately, my mother was not able to care for herself. That was the real point. And we ultimately did get guardianship and get her into an advanced dementia facility and that type of thing. But I'll tell you one interesting thing. How she fooled us was the most interesting thing I had ever understood. And she kept her memories on little notepads all over the house. And so when we were talking to her or whatnot, she'd say, hey, I'm doing my paperwork or whatnot. But really, she would come and read the notepad and say, hey, I talked to your sister so-and-so, and I talked to a friend so-and-so, and she's just reading off her notepad. She kept her memory on paper, which is a fascinating idea, but funny when you think about it, but also a good trick, you know.
Definitely a good trick. Smart cookie. I want to go back to the place about this that is, I mean, so difficult. And I think the key that you talked about is do it early, because when you can be proactive, I think magic can happen, and ease and some grace in the process. How early, Frank? Like, tell me more about that. Like, how would one even decide when is the right time to make that happen?
Many times, what occurs, or at least occurred for us, is that you really kind of don't keep up with your parent to some extent, especially if they seem to be independent in doing their stuff. And so the big thing, at least for guardianship, is that you have to have a baseline, and you have to have a medical professional who is basically saying that they are degrading. That's the person that ultimately the judge is going to believe when they, in the sense that they can't take care of themselves. And of course, every jurisdiction it's different. Got to have a lawyer, all those kinds of things. But that baseline about where they are and where their degrading is going is critical to ultimately arguing for guardianship. And what I would certainly recommend is that, if you're taking a parent to a medical, just a normal checkup and whatnot, have the doctor start doing it. Just mention it. Just ask. And many doctors will do it. Some will not, just unless prompted. But that's critical to understand really where they are cognitively. And I think the really hard part is some days she was fine. I mean, she could talk about the past like it was better than I could remember it. I mean, it's hard to imagine. We kind of see it like in movies and whatnot, imagine something different. She was really, really good at it. At fooling us to some extent, and super smart about it, and the doctors. And so it took a little while. That delay also meant she was at risk. She was at risk financially. She was at risk physically. She was at many levels of risk. So it took quite a while to get it in place, but we ultimately did do so.
This is such an important topic. I have a personal experience with a great aunt who was abused by the financial advisor, and to the point of getting her to sign things in her hospital bed when she was, yeah. So it's crazy. So when I start to think about this and think about being proactive is really, that excites me, because if you can be brave about that and have the conversations, I think is my point. It's like, those are difficult conversations to have, but if you can be brave and have them at some level and get that started ahead of time, you can really, really prevent some pretty awful stories. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, the irony about this, and so I would say to people, be careful what you believe about your parent. The irony about this is she had done something similar for her parents. She had gotten, all the attorney authorities that she needed, all the paperwork early to help her own parents. But she was heavily resistant to having it done herself. So she certainly understood it because she did it to take care of her parents. But a very strong-willed mother, not uncommon sometimes. It was tough, and so being the youngest and the only boy, I got to be the arguer. Like, I was the one who came in and had to be pushy and push it forward. I didn't like it, but you have to do. That's the other thing I'd say. Look, you got to do it to protect your parent. I mean, it feels horrible. There are days when there was a couple of stories, there was a couple of times in the book where I literally talk about kind of saying, we're going to do this, and walking out of the room and letting my sisters kind of clean up because that's what we're going to do. And I hated to do it, but it was the only way to basically make it authoritative. And in the end, I was told many times, you did the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
You had to do this. And, she would not have had enough money literally to be cared for up until she passed had we not stopped the flow of money. And she was also not physically able to take care of herself.
Yeah.
Like, all about things like leaving the oven on and pans, things that can be very, very detrimental to elderly.
Frank, thank you so much for being in the project. Thanks for being here today to share this. You guys, this is so important to hear these things, to have the conversations about it. I hope that you're hearing some golden nuggets for yourself. I've got some great questions I want to ask all the authors, but really first, just a thank you to all four of you. It's one thing to do what you do every day, you're masters, but it's quite another thing when I challenge you to put it in black and white in a book and give people that practical experience. And you all did it so brilliantly. This book is such a gift for people. And I hope that it gets gifted to all of the people we know who are caring. And this doesn't always have to mean it's an elderly person or a person with dementia. It could be just because I care for my kids every day. It could be I care for 5 cats. I don't know, like we care for a lot of things in our lives, and we pour that love and caring into people and beings in lots of different ways. So this book is going to help just a lot of different kinds of people. Danica, I'm going to start with you on this next one. A lot of people in our healer community talk about the idea that everything happens for us, not to us, that the universe is bringing us experiences that are for our growth and evolution. So has that idea helped you or not? Give us the why.
I would say yes, it has. With me, I'm a very spiritual person, and I truly believe that God has gifted us all with our amazing gifts to use in our own capacity, and I mean, just you cannot predict what is going to happen to you, but have a mindset and be ready to serve one another in a way that it should be done. Just to keep faith if that's your belief, and stay strong through the hard times.
Yeah, I like that advice. It's an interesting question I've been asking everybody, because sometimes it can be very difficult when something will judge it by saying bad, something bad happens, and you're faced with whatever the reaction is. Danica, thank you for kicking that question off. And this one is a little bit like, ooh, how am I going to answer this one? Sue, how about you? So this idea that everything happens for us, does that help you or not?
It has helped me for many years, and I have actually elevated it to the next level. One day I recognized that because over the past 40 years, roles of family caregiving support have come into my life so many times, that being a caregiver and sharing to help others is a part of the purpose of my life. So now where I come from is that everything happens through me. I allow whatever's supposed to happen to come through me based on the lessons I've learned and the experiences I've had. When we share our wisdom to help others, it's knowledge when we've learned it and we keep it inside. It's wisdom when we share it to help others. And so now I take what used to be for me, which was to develop the knowledge and understanding of it, and allow it to come through me to become wisdom for others.
I love that take on that. And of course, feeling like we're being used for the highest good. So that y'all are going to be talking about the awareness, and Danica said it, the mindset. It's so important. Frank, how about you? What about this idea that everything happens for us versus to us? Has it helped you?
Yeah, I like the idea as a general idea. I think the thing is that it's a struggle sometimes. I mean, it certainly was a struggle with my mom. I've certainly done some other caregiving, and super duper struggle. What I can tell you, or at least for me, what's that's done is it's allowed me to go deeper into my journey. And I think there's a choice there. If you're going to stay in the game, like if you're really going to be in the caregiving, if you're really going to be that person that maybe you would like to be in caregiving, your junk, your unresolved whatever is just going to come at you, because the pain of dealing with someone else in pain really starts to get the motor neurons and the mirror neurons and everything going off in you. And I'll feel a chain of the emotional whatever that'll go back to unresolved stuff. And you got to keep working. And so it is a spiritual journey. This is what, in my mind, the daily practice is about, and daily rituals, is to start understanding what you haven't dealt with, what you need to deal with, so you can stay in the game. Whether it's just being a decent human being, or helping a parent, or just being a good partner. I think you have to keep working on it. And the universe, whether we like it or not, it conspires to help us sometimes, and sometimes helping us is in challenging us. And so it is helpful. Although I must admit, there are days I'm not super super enjoying the difficulties. That's just being honest. But I do see how seeing the world that way versus just being angry at reality has made a super difference in my life, and the way I engage, not just with my mother, but with my practice, with helping others, and just life.
Yes, I love that. Your junk is coming at you if you're going to be a caregiver. Like, right, if you take that on, so get ready. And I mean, all of life is a self-development journey if you see the things that happen. I love having these conversations with you guys. Love playing in the sandbox with people who are practicing the other level awareness. It's life-changing. Cheryl, it's hard to go last on these, but tell us what you feel about that.
Well, it's hit me like a wave when you asked that question. And then I started hearing the responses of others, because I had this flashback of my whole career and my life, and my personal journeys of providing care and support kept intertwining with my professional life. And I think that gave me this opportunity to be even more empathetic and even more focused on providing that support to the people that I was working with professionally, because I had a grandmother first with Alzheimer's, and then a grandfather, and then other parent care issues, and then my own husband's lymphoma, and all of these things were happening to me as I was also providing support as a licensed social worker working with families. And so I think about what Sue said, that this has happened for me to help me learn and grow, but then I take it through me to pass on to others. And the word possibilities has been used so many times today, and being open to possibilities, being open to what am I learning through this? And I guide families a lot, and when I'm working with them, to kind of, think of this as sort of a little bit of an experiment. Kind of pull yourself back a bit. This is how I've coped. Pull yourself back and look at this kind of scientifically, and what are the possibilities here? What can we try? What can we do differently? And what am I meant to learn through this process? And sometimes that helps take it off of, takes it out of yourself and helps you to be more present, because you're not focused so much on how is this affecting me emotionally, but what am I learning through it? And what are the possibilities available to me?
Yes, thank you, Cheryl. For me, I love this question so much because of the observation that I have made on the happenings of my life over time. And there were certain things that happened where I might take that idea, it all happens for me, and go, BS. Like, how could this be for me? Right. And you dive into that reaction because of what you're going through. But what you are all helping people with today is the different ways you practice the awareness around that topic, even for the worst possible moments. And this is going to help people take a breath when they're inside of it, which is really, I think, step number one: take a deep breath. Just be, right, and be there, and notice, and it's okay. Everything is okay. Body awareness is my first step. Sue, I'm gonna come to you with this next one. Community has been the difference between success and failure for me, and I'm not just talking about business. I'm talking about life and going through the different things. Tell me about your community and what it's meant to you.
Community means everything. It is people who invest of themselves into what we're doing, and we all invest in each other. And when we invite people into participating in our lives, and they have the permission to invite or to be where they are, where they have capacity to be, and different people at different times in their lives, they're able to pour different things into our community, and sometimes they need to pull from the community. There's such a rich texture in I call it the fabric of the quilt of our lives, of what community is there. It also helps us know we're never alone. One of the things that can so often happen, especially early in our caregiving journeys, is we feel alone. I know I did. I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know the questions to ask. I didn't know where to go. And yet when we have community, there is a peace in that, because someone does, and they invite you in to asking for it and being there to support them. And when we're in an active caregiving role, we may not have as much capacity to pour into our community. And yet, after we've been receiving from it, when our caregiving journey has ended, we now have the great gift of being able to pour more of ourselves into it. So it continues to keep everyone full.
I love that, Sue. Thank you. That was a really nice way to kick that question off. Frank, how about you? What does community meant?
If you'll let me adjust your question slightly and change the word community, because to me it's family. And I like the way my wife has said, you can choose your family, and so really those who helped me during the struggle with my mother's dementia and in other struggles in my life are really my family. I mean, and I'll tell them, you're adopted, you're my brother, you're my sister. I absolutely tell them that, and I mean that with all of my heart, because they stood with me. They cried with me. They, said, hang in there, when really the day I felt like running away. Keep going. You're doing the right thing. They were the cheerleaders, and, the shoulder crier. There's everything. And so to me, they're family. I don't think you can forge friendships like that, just, easily, to some extent. It's forged into difficulty. And so I don't think of it as much as community sometimes as I think of it as family. And what's interesting is, oddly, we have developed amazing long-term, a few, not many, friendships from our adversity, and supported each other. And certainly we are a community by any definition, but my heart says family. And my heart says brother, my heart says sister. Even though we grew up in different worlds and different places of the country and different times, that's the way I look at it. And I would do anything for them. They've been amazing people. And I've had the opportunity to give back. Just as Sue mentioned, I gave back to the community, who is also doing caregiving now. And so you got to have community. Can't do it alone. It's tough.
I love what your heart says, Frank. And I love that you're bringing me into the fact of the friendships I have also developed. I would agree with you that word can turn to family, and how powerful that energy is.
My favorite thing is I have a number of friends who introduce me as their other brother.
Nice.
Which I appreciate. But the point is, you do need people.
Yeah.
You need people. We all need people.
Cheryl, what has community meant to you? We could use community or family now.
Well, exactly. And that's where I talked in the book about building your support team. But for me, it's been lifelong friends. It's been my family. It's been my colleagues at work. It's been even building a community now with the other authors of this book and making those connections. But I've been so blessed, just thinking about when I go out and walk the dog and I have conversations with neighbors and they ask, well, how's your husband doing? And then we get into a conversation about their life and we're sharing support. And I play Wordle every day, and then I share the results with some lifelong friends, and we start this chain, and it's checking in with each other. How's your dad doing? What's going on with your family? But I had an angel experience when my husband became septic. And I didn't know at the time, but things were falling apart very rapidly. And I was scared. And I reached out to his brother, who was in New Mexico, but he was my lifeline at the time. But I realized I had to get him to the hospital. I had to get my husband to the hospital. I called 911. They couldn't take him because they wouldn't take him to the cancer support hospital where he was being treated. So I put him in my car and I drove down there and I got to the emergency department and I'm thinking, how am I going to get this man out of the car? And I look up and I see my husband's cousin standing there. And I'm like, I don't know where you came from and why you are here, or how you knew that we were going to be here, but could you please help me? I'm going to get him out of the car and then please move my car, take it somewhere, put it in the parking lot. And she was an angel. And it was because I did reach out to my brother-in-law that day and he made the phone call to a local person who could help me. And to me, that's community. That's leaning on others. It's my faith community, my church. It's, all the people in my life who I've had these connections with. It's being present for them and being open to the possibility that they can be there for me.
That one gave me goosebumps, Cheryl. Thank you for that. Danica, how about you? What has community meant for you?
So I completely agree with Frank. Community for me means family. It truly takes a village to, do the role of caregiving. And, it's important because of all the diverse backgrounds and, you're connected with people with all types of walk in life, and you learn from each other. You can hold a hand when, you know, it's a troubling, sad time, lean on a shoulder, cry, and you're speaking with someone that gets it, that understands. And, you know, you have that validation that you're not in this alone. So, you know, community is love, patience, kindness, all of those positive feelings that you get when you have someone to truly, truly lean on. So,
Community is love. Yes. That was perfect. I had to write it down. Seems so simple, doesn't it? But yeah. Okay, last question for all of you. I'm going to challenge you. You need to keep it to one sentence or two, maybe max, okay? And you're not going to want to. Frank, what's the most important thing that you want people to know about caregiving?
It's oddly maybe not about caregiving as much as it is about understanding that your feelings and emotions and struggles are real. They're normal. It's challenging. Give yourself grace and love, and accept support to help you through this most difficult journey.
Yes, accept support, y'all. Cheryl, what's your version?
Well, he said it so beautifully, but absolutely, you are not alone. There is someone out there. And I love the fact that our book includes a resource section, because that will provide you with so many places to turn to, but you are not alone.
Thank you, Cheryl. Danica, what's the most important thing you want people to know about caregiving?
Caregiving is rewarding. It's challenging, and it's ever changing. So just be very comfortable with adapting to the new, you know, way of life for your loved one. Adapt to the changes for sure.
Master ninja mindset move there that Danica is talking about. Sue, how about you? Close us out today. What's the most important thing you want people to know about caregiving?
Self-care is not selfish, it's self-love. We do not need to journey alone. When we are with others, we're all on this journey together to support each other. We'll get through this together.
Nice. To all of you authors today, thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
So, to our listeners, this is way more than a book. This is a generous community waiting for you to reach out. So if you scroll down below the video, I have everybody here hooked up with their websites, their links. Please go click and explore what they're up to. It is a lot of awesomeness. And you can maybe get a question answered. Maybe you need support and you need to reach out. You've heard the invitation from all four of these authors today. You're not alone. Reach out if you need that help, right? This is that generous community. And like you guys were saying, there's such an incredible resource section in the book, right? So you're going to have a lot to look at, a lot of support available. So you're also invited to join us for our book launch party. It's going to be on July 8th at 10 a.m. Eastern. The Caregivers Advocate authors are all going to be there celebrating, and you can come join us on Zoom for that book launch party. I have information down below about that. And if you happen to be listening to this interview anytime after that date, that just means you can hop over to Amazon and purchase your copy of this phenomenal book. Lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.